Now, let's say I understand that and I don't touch the money. I decide I'm just going to let that money sit. Well, when you pass on, they're going to reach out to your wife, Mary, and they're going to say, well, Mary, your husband had $100,000 in face value. You got $76,000 in cash value. We're going to give you a choice. Which one would you choose? Of course, Mary's going to choose her $100,000 in death benefit. Now, where's the rest of my money? Where's my $76,000 in cash value? The life insurance company is going to keep that money. You've been helping them save money, it turns out.
Sanji, how are you this week?
Oh, it's been a week, but I'm doing well as always. How about you?
I'm doing well, but I do feel like I've lost a brother or a family member. Thinking about Malcolm Jamal Warner and seeing that news, like just me waking up and turning on the computer and seeing that on Yahoo, I didn't believe it was real. I just kind of thought, whoa, what? And then reading the
Yeah.
story a little bit more, and it just makes me feel like I lost someone, in my family because I kind of grew up with him.
Yeah, when I heard the news, I was like, "What happened?" And then when I found out what happened, I just couldn't believe it. Just couldn't believe it. And like you said, we're of the age when, we were kind of like part of the whole, the Cosby generation.
Yes.
Watching the Cosby Show, kind of growing through the Cosby Show, and like you said, just he was like a brother, just such a well liked person, that everyone just loved and adored. And so for him to leave us in an untimely way really just gets people thinking,
It
about life.
does. Absolutely. And, today I would say that respectfully, this is a perfect timing to have this guest because we are going to be talking to Ikecia Austin Clary. She's an educator, but she's also a licensed life insurance agent. And it is so important to have life insurance because when I think about him and all that's gone on in a split second, you could not be here. It can happen to any of us. None of us are going to be here forever. And it's a conversation that's very tough, but it's a conversation that's necessary. And even if you have to break down while you're having that conversation, we need to have it. So we have her here today to really break down life insurance and help us understand it because a lot of people don't. I would say it's something almost like credit. We're not all taught about it. We don't have an understanding. We don't know what types of insurance that there are. So let's listen to her and have her help us get educated so that we learn a little bit more about something that again is so necessary.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say because all too often we don't have that conversation or want to have that conversation until tragedy strikes, something happens, and then all of a sudden you're like, if only I had.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to hearing what she has to say.
Yes. Let's go get the education. So, thank you all for tuning in again to the Girly Ladies podcast. We're so excited to be here. And this week, we have a special guest with us. We have Miss Ikecia Austin Clary. And she's not only an educator, but she's also a licensed, and again, licensed life insurance agent. So, thank you so much, Ikecia, for joining us. And we really want to know about you, but also why life insurance? What made you choose that route?
Well, I just want to go start off by saying, hello. Thank you, ladies, for having me on. You both look so beautiful. Super excited to come on your podcast today and share the importance of life insurance. My name is Ikecia Austin Cleary. I am the hottest life insurance agent in the H. And basically, why life insurance? Why not? People always hear about the insurance game. They know that you can make money, it's lucrative, but in terms of being driven with a purpose, while you are able to reap those rewards monetarily, that combination is what drew me into life insurance. And it's not just life insurance. It's about life insurance. It's about understanding investments, understanding where you stand and where you can develop a niche, at a slow pace. There are some conversations that are being had that we are not feeling privileged to be a part of. But the information is out there. We just have to have a willingness and a desire to seek that information. So life insurance is something that will basically take care of my 17-year-old autistic son should anything happen to me once I leave the house, or even if I'm in the house. Who knows? Everybody has a book and a story that's written that we don't know about. But I need to know that he'd be able to take care of himself as an adult, and that whomever is assisting him and whomever has to uproot or change their lives, right, to take care of him would have a cushion and and appreciate me for putting that forethought, out there for them to be successful. So, yeah, life insurance is very important for sure.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I'm so happy to hear you saying that your mission and your goal and your why is really to look out for your son. So let's get down to the real basics. So for someone who has no clue, like really what life insurance is, what is life insurance and why is it so important for women, especially, and for families?
So the term insurance in itself, it's a contract. It's a mutual agreement between an insurer and an insured that if you pay this amount, should something occur, we would cover the cost, right? And when we think about the state and how they require us to have car insurance, home insurance, homeowners insurance, health insurance in some cases, why not life insurance? This conversation on building generational wealth. Well, as I understand it, that begins with the plan to have money for later, not for right now. And I think that the concern for having money right now is overshadowing the planning for the wealth that we need later on. The idea of taking care of not only our grandkids, but our grandkids. That conversation is not being discussed within the Black and Brown community specifically.
And that was going to be my next question. So, why isn't life insurance talked about, especially with women and with people of color? Like, what is it? Is it just people are just don't want to talk about, mortality or their death or them? Like, why is this such a subject that nobody just wants to approach?
You took the words right out of my mouth. We are programmed to run away from tough conversations. Avoidance. We heard terms like sweeping things under the rug. And grandma might do us some justice and actually sit down with the life insurance agent and have great intent to have a plan for the family. But she didn't sit down with the family and discuss what she had just the transaction that she just took part in. So we are still in the shadows and we are not learning. As young adults, we are not able to learn if you don't share with us, if everything is grown folks' business. I believe that generationally, it's just all in the programming. And as of right now, present day, since there is so much access to so much information, I believe that we have to buy in to the idea that, hey, we can actually break those generational curses, I guess you can call them. the programming is significant, and we're only doing what we were taught. So we just have to bust out of that bubble and be different, I believe.
So, Ikecia, what makes you a little different from, let's say, if you're working a job and you sign up for some type of life insurance that the company gives you, and it's only up to a certain amount, then why should someone also come to you to get more life insurance?
Well, here's the deal. Group term, and that's what we'd have to call it. Group term is a perk. I look at it as a perk. You come work for me, I'll give you these benefits and health. I'll give you a great 401k matching plan, help you with the retirement. I'm an educator. I pay into TRS and Social Security with the Harris County Department of Education. There are perks. That we hear it all the time. Oh, that job has great benefits. Well, group term is only a policy that's active while you are working at that job. Once you leave that place of employment, that first day, you are no longer employed, you are no longer insured. And I speak from experience because I've been teaching 13 years. I left teaching for a year to work with my sisters in the financial services industry with tax preparation. A whole year off of work. Now, caught up in the abundance of the monetary gain, I didn't realize I just walked away from all my health insurance. My son has ADHD. He needs his medication. And at that time, I was blessed because he was with his stepmom, but I digress. I wasn't thinking that I was walking away from way more than just being in the classroom. So by the grace of God, when I came into the life insurance arena, I realized, oh my God, let me get covered. Oh my God, within that 12 months, 13 months, I was not teaching. If anything happened to me, what would have become of my, at that time, 16-year-old son? So I began to praise him for protecting us because I was blind and I obviously could not see. And I was not thinking for the family, you know. But thankful to him, I'm on that path, that track right now. So yeah, it's very important to solidify your own plan. You have to be in charge of your own plan, your own investments, and your own means to take care of your family. You can't put that burden on a company, in my opinion. It should not be up to them in terms of the money you make and the way you're able to take care of your family.
Basically, what you're saying is it's best to go ahead and pay into what your employer's offering as far as insurance, but you definitely need to have insurance on your own.
You want to make sure that you're covered at a certain age and a certain health status. So let's say you started working at that job in your 20s and you go well into 10, 15 years of working at that job, right? Then they decide they're going to lay you off. The company is, closing down, what have you. Now you have to go seek benefits, life insurance, and start understanding retirement and investments for yourself. But now you're being rated at that age and that health status, which could possibly be not in a great status. You know what I mean? As opposed to when you started that job in your early 20s. So it's just really important to lock in. Lock in when you're young and healthy. Don't wait till, situations occur before you decide life insurance is important.
You're teaching me something because I didn't realize that once you leave an employer, you don't have that anymore. I kind of thought, and I don't know why I thought this, that that's something that sort of stays with you. That, once you need it or something happens, it would still be there since you paid into it all of that time.
Now you pay into the premium for the life of the policy depending on what was agreed. And some life insurance policies coming from a job, they may be portable, but they are going to change their premium amount though, right? Because we are no longer in a pond with other people paying, right? We're separated from the group, right? So now our premium is looking a little bit more expensive because we are no longer paying into the group rate. So either way, you want to make sure you secure a rate on your own outside of a job. You know what I mean? So that you don't have to look forward to any adjustments in your premiums moving forward.
So another question I have for you, a lot of our listeners, because we kind of target towards midlife women, being, let's say, midlife being about 35 years old and up. What can we, like, what's the age that we should start? Ideally, it's in your 20s, of course.
Our babies need to be insured. Our babies need to be insured. We need to make sure the whole household is covered from a baby that's 5 days old. And
Okay.
moving into adult life, we need to make sure that our kids own their own policies. They have to be in charge of their own policies. Now you can continue to pay their premiums, but they take ownership over their policies.
So let's say that you have someone who, okay, they're just completely late to the game. They're just now learning. And maybe it's a woman who's about 45 years old. Can she still, is it too late, or does she need to just jump on it and get going?
She needs to jump on it and get going ASAP. You know, she needs to jump on it and get going yesterday. At the end of the day, the older you get, like I said, we are rated at our age and our health status. You know, it's very rare that a person will practice a super healthy lifestyle. And even then, can you be subject to ailments along the way?
Right.
So when you're talking life insurance and benefits of a policy, you may have a terminal illness benefit that in the event you were to be diagnosed with cancer or anything that is, that will be, let's say your doctor gave you a certain length of time to live, you'd be able to have access to those benefits to help take care of your family for that time that you are living. And then upon your demise, they would get the difference from the death benefit. I mean, just things like that we don't consider. We're just looking at the fact that, someone wants to collect once I die. And that's just not the case, And even in terms of how your money is used, you have control over that while you are on earth. It is nothing to draw up a will and decide in increments what needs to happen. You can set up accounts, annuities. You can set it up to pay your wife or your husband out $5,000 a month, $6,000 a month for what y'all were accustomed to living at. So it's not just about leaving money for people to squander. You're setting up the fund, but you are also giving guidance and leaving instructions while you are still here on earth. You still have a voice beyond the grave, and that's probably one thing people need to realize as well. You still have a voice beyond the grave. I think we think, once I'm dead, I don't care about no credit cards. I don't care what happens on earth once I'm gone. I mean, but did you really love your family in that case? If you are not concerned about their well-being once you have transitioned. So I just think that's very important.
So what type of, can you kind of guide us through the different types of insurance? Because it's not a one size fits all, right? There's, different things that you can get or choose.
Okay, so when it comes to types of life insurance policies, you have cash value life insurance, right? And then you have term life insurance. Under the umbrella of cash value life insurance, you have whole life, you have universal index life, and then you have variable life. Now, the feature for these policies that are so attractive is the fact that you are building a savings account within that policy. Basically, the company is taking your premium, and a portion of that is going to your life insurance policy, and then another portion is going into a special savings account that will accrue interest. But, here's the deal, and I'm a proponent of term life, so I'll give it to you the way that I've received it. With whole life, you have this savings account, but you're not able to have access to it for 3 to 5 years after owning it. Then once you do gain access, we're talking your money growing at a rate of 1 to 4%. At 3%, if I had $10,000 to invest, it's going to take me 24 years before I can double my money. So since I know that 1 to 4% is snail's pace, and I'm not agreeing to that. Now, let's say I decide I'm saving. I got about $50,000 in cash value in my whole life insurance policy. My son's graduating 12th grade, and I want to have the best prom send-off I could possibly have. I'm going to take out money from that cash value account. What they don't tell you is that you got to pay that back. You are borrowing out of that account, and you have to pay that back at 6 to 8% interest. Now, you're telling me I'm buying 2 products, but I'm really only getting one. You're telling me that I'm taking out money that was supposed to be mine because it's my savings account, but I have to pay you back. Now, let's say I understand that and I don't touch the money. I decide I'm just going to let that money sit. Well, when you pass on, they're going to reach out to your wife, Mary, and they're going to say, well, Mary, your husband had $100,000 in face value. You got $76,000 in cash value. We're going to give you a choice. Which one would you choose? Of course, Mary's going to choose her $100,000 in death benefits. Now, where's the rest of my money? Where's my $76,000 in cash value? The life insurance company is going to keep that money. You've been helping them save money, it turns out. Now, where I'm from, Primerica land, we teach clients to buy term and invest the difference. Let's throw the idea out there that John and Mary, they are both covered at $100,000, $225 a month. That's their premium. Well, upon meeting a Primerica representative, they decided to go ahead and let that policy go. Now John and Mary is covered at $250,000 a piece, and they're paying as low as $80 a month. 35-year-old couple. They saved for 30 years. 30 years. $80. Let's see, $80, $225, $80. The difference is $145. And we are able to set them up on a mutual fund savings account at 9% interest. They're able to take that $145 difference, put that in that mutual fund savings account over a span of 30 years. We're talking over $265,000. So now we got a household that's covered in $500,000 in life insurance, and we got a good old almost $300,000 mutual fund savings account. And upon death for John or Mary, they get to have advantage of the death benefit, and they're able they've built their own life insurance policy, essentially. We just have to learn how to do like Granny and put the pennies in the Ozarka bucket and let them sit. Understand the benefits of compound interest and what that can do for us if we would just let it. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm 42 years old. I am just gaining an understanding for all of these concepts. So no, to answer your question, it's not too late. It's never too late. I'm a young buck. I'm planning for my 60s right now. So yeah, just want to educate our clients to make good choices and understand exactly what they're doing. We tend to follow trends. We're in a social media climate. You see TikToks talking about generational wealth, how to build with the UIL, but they're not really laying out the system, the process, and it's very important that clients are able to do what they need to do with their money and not stress about it, not feel anxious about it, you know? So yes, absolutely.
I am so glad that you explained that and I hope that our viewers and listeners can take a moment to really understand what you just explained because it is so important. Because, in my opinion, whole life insurance is the ultimate scam. It's the ultimate scam that people just don't even know. Because, like you said, they think they're getting two vehicles in one. They think they're getting life insurance that'll pay out upon their death, as well as the cash value. No, you're getting one or the other, not both. And like you said, if somebody borrows against that policy and takes the cash value, they lose the death benefit. And I don't think they understand that. And so it's the ultimate scam, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
But it just goes back to the microwave society that we live in. You know, the feature is to have access to this cash right now, you know. But at the end of the day, 3 to 5 years, I could have been saving in a mutual fund.
Right, where you get both.
And do you know how many clients, we take the liberty and we handle clients on Zoom and in person, but we take the liberty of helping them vet their whole life policies. And when you see the look of disgust, once they realize the cash value or the surrendered value is below $100, what do you, I've been paying into this. I've been paying y'all $200 a month for the past 5 years.
For years.
On a $5,000 or a $10,000 face value, I done paid over the face value.
Absolutely.
But we're thinking, oh, I got some insurance. I'm they say into insurance. I'm into insurance. And then I run into people every day that, the younger generation. Oh, my grandmother has me covered. Well, how old are you? 25. Baby, this not on grandma no more. Do you have a child? You have kids? I think the most horrifying thing is watching the news because you always see someone of the younger generation. And when I say younger generation, I mean somewhere in my 20s and my early 30s, because we are still feeling immortal and we are out there, right? And then things happen, and then you hear the news report. Well, so and so has left behind this baby, this baby, this baby, and this baby. Her mother is seeking justice. The GoFundMe account link is this. And for a 21-year-old individual, $50,000 in coverage is $16.63. Chick-fil-A, that's what I call it when I'm talking to my clients. You eat Chick-fil-A?
Right.
Every other day, So you just, and I have my own personal stories. I lost a grandchild at 5 months who was not covered. The family had to come together, So it's not even about age. You have that baby 5 days later, get that baby covered. Because should anything happen to that baby, the last thing you want to do is worry about $1. You want to be able to pour whatever you need to pour into your moments of grief. So I mean, it's just being responsible, And the car insurance companies, they don't give us no money back after we pay them all of it. You can pay them forever and not get into not one wreck. Where is this money going? I pay $325 a month. If I don't get into a wreck, and then if I do, you want $1,000 in deductible.
Right. No, it's too much.
So I mean, what are we really talking about in terms of your life insurance? And you should value your life greater than possessions, things. People are out here insuring jewelry, insuring, rentals insurance. Your apartment complex require you to have rental insurance. When Obama came out with Obamacare, that was the government's way of requiring you to get some medical coverage. So why are we not on a crusade to make sure that we are covered in life as well?
I think the reason is that people are just not educated enough on this. And like you said, there are people who are getting all of their news and information from social media, whether it's TikTok, X, Instagram, wherever. But so where do people go to get the education that you just provided? If
Well,
where do we go? Because there was so much I didn't know. I thought whole life insurance was the bomb diggity. I thought that was the way to go until I was educated. So how do you get that education outside of the foolishness that's on social media?
I think it's important for us to understand separating life insurance from investments. So we're gonna start there, and then we'll search for a term company that will give us a 10, 20, 35-year level term, preferably Primerica. I've got to plug my underwriter. And make sure that that policy is filled with, wonderful benefits like the terminal illness benefit, or the increasing rider benefit, which is a benefit that will increase your policy amount, the death benefit amount, but only increase your premium by 10% of that amount. So without you even doing nothing. Some people wonder, if I get covered at this low amount, will I get to increase? Well, with that benefit, you'll increase without even having to touch your policy. It's all about getting locked in. So, and asking the right questions. And, just being in tune to understanding your business. Right now, my grandmother is requesting my assistance to go through her file cabinet because she's unsure. So I think that understanding the new age technology, making sure you got your app downloaded, making sure you're able to log in and check your policy and your investments, making sure you are having conversations with your teenage kids, because at some point, 15, 16, 17, 18, we are able to understand, what's going on. So, where would they find this information? Well, they can start with me, Ikecia Cleary. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Team Invincible. I do have a beautiful organization out here in Houston, Team Invincible. I'll go ahead and give a shout out to my coaches, Coach Chris and Michelle Durham, 30 years in the business. So we are out here to not only take care of our own families, but to make sure that we are helping others as well. We want to help families. We want to make sure we are purpose driven, and we want to make sure that we are growing inside and out while we are on our crusade.
Okay. So what are some of the biggest myths that you come across? Like, is it true that only people with children and mortgages should have life insurance? If I'm single and I'm 60 years old, do I need life insurance, or is it really only for people?
This question drives me, because at any rate, somebody got to put you away.
Right, but that's how people think. They
what I
think
mean?
because it's just me, I'm X years old and I don't need insurance, but it's only for people with children and mortgages.
When I approach specifically my younger generation, I remind them of grief and what that looks like. And if mommy loved you as much as you just told me that she loved you, why would you not want her to be able to grieve peacefully? Why would you want her to have to call relatives that she probably hadn't spoken to in 20 years? Because that's how desperate the situation is, It's like I said, $50K, $16.63. That's the first start to adulting. And then let's not forget, if you plan on living in this earth, you might not have kids right now, but next year you could fall in love. Y'all might want to start a family right away. You know what I mean? So at any rate, you're setting, if you do aspire to have any type of family, you're setting yourself up, as a man or a woman, to have those things that you desire, and taking care of them will be included in that. I just think that it's being able to leave something behind for the ones that you love is important. So in terms of parenting, you don't want to be worried about going to work. When my stepson and his wife lost their child, they could not work, and they had 3 other kids to take care of. You know what I mean? You know, your mom, you might go on to glory, and your mom might not be able to work. She might not be able to cook for herself. You know, mom and dad might not be able to talk to each other no more. He might not be able to work. The whole family is just completely disheveled and devastated. So no, you didn't leave no kids behind, but you left behind tons of memories and a legacy. And we just need for the money part to not be a factor, because it's simple. Lauryn Hill said it in her song. It could all be so simple, but we'd rather make it hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good old school reference.
Definitely. You've touched upon the cost of the insurance, especially when you're younger. So, is that one of the reasons why there may be some people who just say, this is something that I might be paying a lot for, and it's something I may never see? So let's talk about the cost of insurance.
So when it comes to the cost, we have to look at your age and your health status. You'd be surprised. I've come across 30-year-olds with congestive heart failure. Very disheartening. So when I say getting covered in your 20s is vital, you know, coming out the gate, 18, 19, 20, 35-year level term, we're going well into our 50s. You make sure it's renewable. You know what I mean? You're setting yourself up for greatness. Whatever happens in between that time, you're locked in. You got that policy before those ailments occurred. So I think that just drilling in and having the conversation of the future with the present. And like you said, they 9 times out of 10, they may not want to hear it. A lot of times they don't want to hear it from me. But in my view, just like a missionary, you cannot ever say you were not told. You cannot ever say you were not educated. You cannot ever say, no one, took that time out with you. I did my job, and that's how I keep it rolling. I'm just out here doing my job. Whether you take that information in or not, I get a lot of resistance. Well, tell your mom and dad to call me. We can have that conversation. You know what I mean? But then you'll come across some young adults who they have a great understanding. They may have already suffered or dealt with some trauma and understood what it meant like to collect those plates to bury mama. You know what I mean? So I have some clients who are like, hey, I didn't take it seriously before, but we got to get this together now because that was too much. It takes upward of $10,000 to give a decent funeral. And that's really and truly, I'm lowball. It's somewhere between 10 and 15 for just your basic funeral. So the idea that you're just going to collect those funds overnight is ridiculous. When all you had to do was just make sure that you just committed to a small amount per month in premium and make sure your family is covered. It's just that simple. The cost does go up. Yeah, the price does go up once you get into an age where let's start where life insurance is scaled. We're looking at the lifespan. For men, somewhere around 77. For women, somewhere around 73. Okay. So the way life insurance companies make their money, they're making their money based off of your lifespan. So you telling me that you're trying to get insurance for your dad and I ask him how old and you say 74. Well, insurance company is taking a risk by providing you a policy because any day now, and they weren't able to capitalize off of you not one bit. So, I mean, that's another reason why policies can be driven up to be so expensive as you get older, because we're making up for lost time, bucko.
Right.
Now, when you're younger, of course, they know that they got a little bit of time in you, so they're able to offer you that low rate. So it's just all about getting locked in, once you realize that. But it's just scary to me. I get the most inquiries come from people who are already ailing and already up in age. Most inquiries. The people who are out there healthy and living their best life, you know, they're not itching for life insurance agents, But I think that's telling. So
Yeah, because they don't think that they're going to die anytime soon, and you just tomorrow's not promised to us.
I
So
mean, not to bring up a sore spot, but one of our favorite celebrities went on vacation and did not come home.
right.
Do you know how I felt landing in Houston from Costa Rica? Sitting in the airport, reading that article, getting those alerts. I could have been with him. That could have been me. I was out there in the tide too, you know?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we don't know when the day is. And because of that, we have to make sure we prepare properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you've explained the whole thing with the age and how when you are older, obviously it's going to cost more because you're closer to the age when you are probably going to pass on. So if you're young or younger, um, how does one determine how much coverage you should get? Because you've talked about the funeral costs, burial costs being a few $1,000s. Okay, people start getting together with their GoFundMe's, their fresh fries and chitlin dinners and all kind of stuff to get that worked out. But then there's that income protection part. Once that person leaves and that income is gone. So how do you all determine how much coverage a person needs?
So when it comes to determining how much coverage, it's situational. Having a family versus not having a family, being a breadwinner versus, not being a breadwinner. We have to replace the income that is affording us this lifestyle. So one might choose coverage based on their salary amounts over a certain number of years. So let's say I'm about $80,000 a year. One might ask for $1 million policy. You know what I mean? One might ask for a $500,000 policy. At those times, past the $300,000 mark, of course, you have to have extra tests. You got to do medical. You got to do blood, and you got to do urine. Past 300,000, but we will award we will approve a $2 million policy, for a client. But it's all about your assets. It's all about who you are in your family in terms of what you are bringing to the table. What type of income are we trying to replace? That's the true question. And that's how we scale that. Now, just to be, so for some people, the premium cost is the most concern. What I just told you does not matter to them. They just want to be able to have a burial. You know what I mean? And premiums, month-to-month premiums may be an issue for them. So you'll determine your debt benefit based off of that. So it just really it's situational. It varies. And it just all depends on who you are in your family in terms of being a provider. You know, what type of income are we trying to replace?
So if you're shopping for insurance, you're like, okay, I'm going to go for it. I need to get this insurance. I'm going to cover myself, cover my burial, my funeral, my income for 10 years, however long. So what red flags are there when shopping for an agent? Like what do you see out there? A red flag that somebody should be aware of?
I think that accessibility is important. A lot of times I run into current clients of Primerica even. Oh, I think I have a policy, but I just can't remember my agent's name. I used to have a card, and you know what I mean? So I think that just continuing to make yourself accessible, continuing to keep that open line of communication with your clients, relationship building. So you kind of get a feel for that when you are engaging with an agent. No different than shopping for a real estate agent because you want them to help you find your forever home, or your car salesman that you would trust to get you the best deal on your car. I think it's about tuning into our gifts of discernment and understanding a person who is caring about the information they are providing, not so much as the reward on the end, because of course we work, right? But making sure that you are fully educated on what you are doing and making you comfortable with me, you know, so that you're able to feel good about your choices and working with me. I think that's important. In terms of meeting people, you kind of gauge within like I guess 5 to 10 minutes on whether or not you're going to be able to really trust this person. I think the more education you're able to receive from your agent, the more they're showing how much they care. Versus, let me give you a quote. Okay, you picked your quote. Let's get off this call. We've done the pay part. Let's go. See you later. Talk to you in the next 10 years. Talk to you when your policy lapses and I got to call you to get it corrected. No, that's not what we're doing. We're making sure that we are fostering great relationships, ones that, you know, people feel good about coming back to you, accessing you, you know, making yourself accessible. I think that's what's key.
So it sounds like there's benefits to working with an independent insurance agent like yourself versus just calling up one of the big box companies like MetLife or whomever's out there.
Yeah, it's. I feel, I feel that it'd be way more engaging in terms of just having open conversations, not feeling so intimidated. And just being able to connect with somebody, no different than like picking your therapist. You know, you can fire your therapist if you're not feeling that connection. I think that it's important that you understand the person that you're working with, what their mission is and their end goal for you. That would be me, and that's kind of what I've searched for, and when I've looked for other individuals, other agents to help me in certain areas. So yeah, working with an individual for sure. Making sure you know, you don't have to settle with one person either. You know, if you don't get a good vibe, hey, it was nice working with you, you know, but I'm gonna keep on shopping, you know. I might have too much energy for somebody. I'll take over a Zoom call. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great. So if someone says, you know what, I like her, I want to go ahead and I want to go with her, but you have a spouse, and you have a spouse who's like, insurance, nah, I can't. So how do you help women kind of break through those conversations that they have to have with their spouse? Let's say their spouse is not covered. Um, how do you navigate that?
I actually did a reel about that because, you know, traditional households, I guess when we look back, you know, the man, he carried the finances, he went to work. The woman, traditionally, she's at home, she's taking care of the kids, the household, and just, you know, her questioning him on coverage. You know, you don't want to touch that, right? But I feel that in a working household that is for everyone, you know, we're going to make sure that if something happens to me as a wife, that you're able to take care of these kids and vice versa. Once again, I think we talked about it when we first opened up the programming and not being able to handle those tough conversations, or the conflict or the backlash that might come behind it. And I guess you can question one's love for you if they don't want to talk about what if, something happens to you, what's going to become of me and the kids. I think that's that's a red flag right there, and so the issue needs to be pressed. We should press the issue. As women, we should press the issue. And if you're feeling uncomfortable, then guess what? That's a good thing. That means we really need to be talking about it. If you are feeling uncomfortable and I'm asking too many questions, and I'll give you that grace. Hey, these are my questions. Let's table this till next week while both you and I go do some research. You know what I mean? I was married for 10 years to a woman, and I'll be transparent in saying that she's 20 years older than me. Okay. And we are 4 months separated. And within that 10-year time span, that 20 years started to show its head, because the way she thought about her private income life versus what we could merge in terms of how we ran the household. I learned after I became an agent that she was only covered for $5,000.
That won't put anybody in the ground. That won't even get you in the ground.
I was able to get her better coverage, and praise be to God, she's a vibrant, 61-year-old. She's healthy, vibrant. And she was instantly approved for $50K at 61. That's telling. But before I did that, had anything happened to her, we only had $5,000. And it takes upwards of $8,000 to run that household, for real. So yeah, that moment was telling. And I speak about my own life because it's not even about having you buy in. I'm speaking from experience. I was afraid to have those tough conversations with her. I regarded her in a way that if she's not opening the conversation, I guess I won't open it neither. But moving forward, in my household, we will be having those tough conversations, because we don't want to place blame on mama, grandma, auntie, uncle, like my generation. That's what we do. Oh, they didn't teach us nothing. And they didn't.
They didn't know.
But you don't want to beat a dead horse, you don't want to keep, harboring on the fact that they didn't, that, you want to empathize and know that nobody taught them either.
Right.
So when you know better, you do better, basically.
Yeah, because I'm so glad you said that, because that's just such a waste of time to just play the blame game. Nobody told me, I didn't know. Well, like the fact that you didn't know that okay, like moving on, you didn't know. But yeah, you touch upon a really important point, that the primary breadwinner, or whoever's the one really carrying the load, that's the one that I would think needs to be covered. And so if that person is paying the mortgage, paying the primary bills, paying, the bulk of everything, and even if they've got a job right now, like you said earlier, if that job goes away, then what?
Yeah.
You have nothing. And then if that person passes, okay, what, you have nothing. So those conversations just have to take place. They have to get the policy separate from what the employer has.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
It's important.
So how can people get in touch with you? I know you shared it earlier. You say it again. How can people get in touch with you? And before we do that, let's talk about Primerica. Like tell us about Primerica, because there are a lot of people out there some have positive thoughts, some have negative thoughts, but I want to hear from you. What is Primerica and what makes it so special?
It's time to
I know I've just opened it up, but people can Google Primerica, and some people, see some positive things, some people see some negative things. And so I'm just saying, let's clear it all up. Because when Nick was on our podcast, she talked about Primerica. She talked about her feelings and the hard work that you all do, and really got into it. So please just tell us.
So for those who don't know, Primerica is an organization that has been out since 1977. Okay. And the birth of Primerica stemmed from a man named Art Williams, who suffered the loss of his dad and had to watch his mom be basically messed over by the whole life insurance company, leaving them without anything, right? So his mission was to do insurance a different way. Won't go too far back into history, but from what I've gotten out of Primerica, this organization, which is so diverse, okay, never seen so many different cultures of people. I mean, and we have our divisions, you know. I was at the African American Leadership Council in April. 3,000 Black folks in the financial services industry out here educating and helping families, making it happen, sharing in the same mindset, thirsty for growth, you know. It was electrifying. And to know that they have several divisions for the Latinos, you know, the Asians. I mean, just to know that this organization, and then the only way to get in is $124. $124. And you walk me through the process of obtaining a state license. I'm a school teacher, and I used to be a hairstylist prior to that. So getting a state license, that's my thing. Let's do it. You know, making sure that I'm not just speaking from just my head. I can show you with paperwork as well. I've studied and I've done the work. So with that, Primerica is giving people the opportunity to build a lifestyle with no ceilings. You know, when you work corporate America, even me being a school teacher, there's a salary cap. I could never make more than a superintendent. So if I don't plan on being a superintendent, I guess this is where I'm at, you know? The opportunity to build legacy. It's just, you know, for $124. I used to own a food truck. Do you know how much money that cost me?
Can't imagine, but I know
So you
it's
mean to
thousands.
tell me we don't want, that's another podcast. Y'all have me on for women in food trucks. But just to know how much the expense is when you want to start a business, and then to, you know, be welcomed into this industry for only $124, where you're able to make part-time income upwards of $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. My first month, I made $1,800 in part-time income. You know, now let's get to the part where, you know, people are a little bit jaded. Teams. We work with base shops. Okay. For me, leadership is everything. I shop around for leadership like I shop around for your best bra.
Right.
It's important to me, you know. And if I'm going to be on your team, then you're going to have to showcase those skills, and that means helping me buy in to your agenda and what you know and feel is right for your team. So I was on before the team that I joined, that I'm presently on. I was on another team, and I didn't feel as welcome. I didn't feel as thought about. I didn't, you know, it was just kind of put you in the mind of that mega church versus the Baptist church type of thing, right? Now, you know, after I didn't do any activity on that team because, like I said, I didn't feel included on that team. Well, years went by, and the coach that I have now, He had approached me before, and I told him no. But by the time he came back, he spun the block on me, what I call it. And by that time, God said, yes, you're ready, right? Well, joining this team, it's been such an experience. It's not just about recruiting. It's not about writing sales. Of course, we're going to do that, right? That's going to come. But we do a lot of mind, body, and soul work, right? Reading, what's necessary to feed your brain. Team calls. I'm on calls every day with my team. Early morning insights, book of the month. Working out, encouraging each other to stay fit. Traveling together. I travel with my team. We'll be in Charlotte at the end of August. We meet every quarter. So even my teammates that are across the country, I see them on a regular. Like my coaches, they bring us together in so many different ways. So it's just really about the leadership, Make sure if you do aspire to be an agent and you want to work with Primerica, because they are the best paid life insurance company out there, period, hands down. They invented the bi-level compensation method. They invented it. It's other companies out there copying the method that they invented. It's the only way. At the end of the day, people are concerned about who's getting paid off of them. Your boss is getting paid off of you when you clocked in that day. That's who's getting paid off of you. I'm a school teacher. I work at a behavioral campus. We service school districts. It's upwards of $30K per student. I got 8 kids in my class. You do the math. I'm not getting paid I'm not getting all the ducats for all these kids. You know what I mean? So you just gotta really take your mind off of, that dog eat dog mentality, that crab in the bucket mentality. You got to really start understanding what unity looks like. And if you build a team and y'all continue to push each other up, that's where we're meeting and we're hitting the goals. We're meeting the goalposts. So in terms of Primerica, yes, it's a big organization, over 150,000 agents and counting. But they give you access to earning your securities license for that 124. If you want to be a mortgage broker for that 124, we're talking about licenses that cost you upwards of $800. You want to take the SIE, the Series 63. You don't want to be a life insurance agent. Well, guess what? Life insurance is our bread and butter, but we are into senior home and health. We are into auto and home insurance. We are into identity and legal protection. We are into so many different companies. Primerica is, don't get me started on Primerica. This organization is the bomb. And if you invite yourself into that arena and you open yourself up to the idea that lifestyle can be for you, that monetary gain can be for you, and then you're able to walk in purpose while you're doing that, right? You're able to educate families and make sure you serve as a resource for your community. Every life insurance policy I write, every death benefit that's issued, that's money that I help put back into the community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's all about evaluating what's your place on earth. We're not here rent free. Figure out exactly what he called you here to do, so you can make sure you stick to the assignment. You know what I mean? And that's what I get from Primerica. Those are the conversations that's being had. You gotta be coachable. You gotta want to learn. And it's not for everybody. It's okay. Some people, they're going to buy into the clock in and clock out. That's fine. I'm a school teacher. I'm doing both. That's because I know that there's gold at the end of the rainbow. So I'm willing to work both. I've always done that. But some people, that's not my thing. Sales, talking to people, that's not my thing. And that's beautiful. But I still want you to seek your purpose and make sure that whatever you are dedicating your time to, giving your energy to, make sure that it is genuine. Make sure that it is pleasing to God. and make sure that, you are treating people the way that you want the people in your household to be treated once they leave every single morning, just like you. All that comes back around full circle. So, I mean, that's what I've gotten from Primerica. You got people out there with bad experiences. Hey, if I go to a McDonald's and they don't treat me right, I'm not going back to that McDonald's. But I'll go to the McDonald's around the corner because there Susie's nice to me. So of course you're going to have organizations where you might not vibe with every single individual. Take the model, love on the blueprint, and network yourself out to maybe an organization or a team that might suit you better. That's my only advice. I was blessed. I don't have to go nowhere. Team Invincible. I love my coaches. I always shout them out. They're out here changing lives. You want to see people really out here changing lives and not just, talking about it. You know what I mean? And you want to be around people who are living examples, and showing up for you. And I got the kind of coaches that once we're done with a team call, my coach told me yesterday, hey, come on, let's go to the roof. I'm buying the first round, the next round on y'all. My coaches are the bomb. You know what I mean? And you just got to get up under great leadership. I don't care what job you at. If you're not up under great leadership and that's going to stunt your growth, you're not able to be successful, then that's a self thing. You got to start evaluating your space after that. You know what I mean? But yeah, Primerica, that they are the bomb, and I'm just so happy to be a part of the organization. I'll advocate for them all day.
And with that leadership that you said that is so important, with that $124 you described, as you said, you're able to do the mortgages, you're able to do, all kinds of things, the investing and so forth. Also, because of Primerica's affiliation with other reputable companies like Fidelity and Lincoln Financial and Rocket Mortgage and so forth. So these big companies that everybody's aware of, who wouldn't be affiliated with Primerica if Primerica wasn't what you just described it to be. So,
and you want to make sure you check your stock exchange. You know what I mean? We're doing great numbers. I had a prospect for a business opportunity. Once we hung up that call, he texted me, "Oh, just looked y'all up, looking good, with the numbers and this, that, and the, what? Yes, look us up." For the ones who want to claim that how is it a scam? How is $124 a scam?
Right. It makes no sense.
Any of that makes sense. How is your ability to go out and get a license for $124? And in the event you did not want to work with the organization, that's still your license. You can go join another organization and write policies with them.
Right. Or, yeah, no, absolutely. No, the people who say the business doesn't work are people who didn't work the business. They just didn't.
They just didn't work.
They didn't work.
They
the
didn't want to
business.
follow the blueprint.
Right.
You got to actually set appointments and talk to people.
Right.
You actually have to educate clients because that's what you signed up to do. You signed up to be a life insurance agent.
Right.
But you got some folk, they're more concerned about money. And that's fine too. That's fine. I'm concerned about money too. But I also understand that there's development that comes first. And you can't expect to come in to your 6 figures on day 2. And when from what I'm understanding and what I'm learning, God will provide those things you desire, those things that are deep down inside. He'll provide those things, but there are contingencies, like you actually getting to work. Faith without works is dead.
Yes. Very true.
And, once we're able to understand that, then I think that it opens up the door to be just so much more impactful, so much more solid, so much more grounded. I think the more I understand that faith without works, like he is putting you in a position to lean on him, let go, let God, and any industry you're in, I don't care what it is, it's going to be work involved. You want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to work. You know, even if you want to go clock in, you're still going to have to perform. You're still going to be given an evaluation. You're still going to be rated based on performance. You know what I mean? In the life of entrepreneurship, you're going to be rated based on performance. You know, but that push and that drive is going to have to come from you. That everything's going to have to come from you. So, you know, this lifestyle is not for everybody, you know, but I thank God that he has given it to me.
Yeah,
I don't know about
absolutely.
everybody, but I'm just happy for myself. Absolutely.
Well, amen. Amen. So we want to thank you so much for joining us today. Boy, did we get an education. Hopefully others got an education on the different types of insurance vehicles, an education on what we as women need to do, and we also learned about the company that you worked for. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
And thank you guys. I'll come back anytime for sure.
To talk about the food truck business, right?
Well, you know, and
No, I'm
also
kidding.
because I'm you know, versed in so many different areas, but there are some other areas that I would like to hint on. So I'll be reaching out.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, we would love to have you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So that was some really great information. I mean, it's clear I'm familiar with Primerica, so there's a lot that I know about the company. But boy, did she share some information that I feel is just so vital for women, especially to know, about insurance and what they need to do moving forward.
Absolutely. It's, I was quiet a lot. I asked a few questions, but the reason I was so quiet is because it's something that I really didn't have a good understanding of. And I was happy to really listen and try to understand a little bit more. Um, I do have life insurance. My husband and I, we have it. And then I also get it through the company that I work for. But just her breaking it down and explaining all that goes into it and what it covers, and then the whole piece about having the cash value, or the death part, like all of that was just going so over my head. I never knew any of that, so it was good for me just to kind of like take that all in and get a better understanding of it. So now I feel like I know the questions to ask and to dig into it a little bit more. I will say I am blessed enough to still have both my parents, and they both are fully like stocked up on life insurance. So for my brother and I, we're not going to have to worry about anything. Like everything is really taken care of. But for a lot of people, it doesn't work out that way.
Very, very true. And a couple of things that you just touched on. Yeah, people really need to understand the difference between term life and whole life. There is a complete difference between those two, and then that new universal life insurance, because people think immediately, oh, whole life, it covers your whole life. Yeah, but there's some things to it that you may or may not know, and term life might be or may have been the better way to go. So it's good that you're covered. You're covered outside of your work. Your husband's covered outside of your work. A lot of people, like she said, they get their coverage through their job, and then all of a sudden the job is gone, and then what? It's just gone. Also good that your family is covered. I and when I say that, I mean your parents. I lost my mother in 2021, but she was covered. She paid for her own funeral, burial, everything because she was covered. So that was a real blessing, as well as being able to leave, some other money behind. For my dad, my parents had been married for 56 years when she passed. But again, my mother took care of it. And so now I have my dad, and my dad is covered, fully covered. And so when he passes, everything will be taken care of. And that really does make it makes it easier. I want him to live forever,
Yeah,
but when he does go, there is comfort in knowing that all is well, because, like she said, these things happen. They happen by surprise, and then people are scrambling with these fish fries and GoFundMe's and all that stuff just to bury a person,
yeah,
and it's really sad.
it is. And hopefully people were educated today, our listeners, because again, this is something where it's not talked about a lot. So you're sort of guessing, and then when you're picking your benefits with your company and you see the insurance, you're, oh, I'll get that, and not realizing that it's going to go away. You don't get to keep that. So it's not like 401k where, that investment you can basically walk away with. If you've, gone on and picked some type of life insurance, it's not following you. So that's something good to know. And then also, what I will say, people just think of life insurance as burial. Don't think of it just as that. If you have a spouse that maybe was making more than you have to supplement that. Your home, credit, cars, whatever the case may be, you have all of that that has to be paid for and taken care of. So it's not just about the burial piece of it, because even if you cremate someone, which I know that that's what my mom has chosen, for herself, and my brother's also chosen that for my dad. Okay, fine. It's not, going into the ground and having to do the casket and all of that, but still, there's bills. There's things that have to be taken care of once that's done. So think of it in those terms, that life insurance is not just about a burial. It's not just about having a nice casket and this, that, and the other. It is about what's that person leaving behind, what kind of debt and bills and things are being left. So just kind of think of that as well.
Yeah, that which is why a lot of people refer to insurance as income protection.
Yeah.
Instead of using the insurance word, they refer to it as income protection or property protection, because you really are protecting yourself, the loss of income when that person goes away for however many years, 5 years, 10 years, depending on the situation. If you're somebody who's raising small kids, and your spouse is the breadwinner, the primary breadwinner, let's say, who pays the bulk of the bills, and then that income goes away and you have small kids, you really need to make sure that person was protected for many years to go. For so you almost need to take that person's income times 10,
Yeah.
at minimum. And like she said, if that means getting $1 million policy, you may have to. And the earlier you do it, the better. It's
Yes.
just it's just so important, but people just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
They just don't want to deal with it, but it's a sad state of affairs when
Yeah.
it all goes down.
I think my biggest takeaway is, do not wait until you're in your 40s and 50s and then decide to do it. Like she was saying, you have a child, protect that child. The child's 5 days old, you need to start getting policies. Or, talking to your teenagers, her saying that, they understand once they're 16, 17, 18, they're going to understand the conversation, and don't do this whole mommy's going to live forever, have that understanding that at some point we're all going to leave, but
Right.
we don't have to be in distress. Let your family grieve properly and not have to worry about money and burial and all of that too. It should just be for them to grieve and not to try to figure out, GoFundMe. And I really almost don't like those things because it's just
Mm-mm.
too much.
It's too much, and you're already upset as it is for the loss of the loved one. Now you're
Yeah.
dealing with financial stuff. It's too much, which is why people end up getting into fights, and it's just a mess. And like I said, I was so thankful that when my mom passed, we didn't have to deal with any of that, because she had done the right thing. She and my dad, and so I really appreciate that. But there are people who've got really bad stories, and you can't even think, oh, well, I'm gone so I don't have to deal with it. Yeah, but you're leaving your family in a real mess,
Yes.
and that's just not what we should be doing. So just hopefully everyone just really got a really good understanding of the information that she was sharing, because it's really, really important stuff.
Absolutely. And please know that we're not always going to be fun and talk about beauty. And, we have to talk about things like this because it's important. This is a part of life. This is what we call adulting and real grown up conversation. This can't be swept under the rug. This has to be talked about. We can always talk about the latest lipstick at any time or the latest procedure at any time, but
Right.
this is something that you really need to know and educate yourself on. And a lot of women, again, we're talking to you, we want you to be educated, we want you to go away with something like, oh, I didn't know that. You know what, let me learn more about that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here. We hope you found our conversation as insightful and thought-provoking as we did. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. That helps other people to find our channel.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. And we always want you to be involved with what we're doing. So please make sure that you are checking us out on our website. It's girlyladies.com. You can also take a look at our contributor area and read about our guests that we have, as well as our Instagram page. We are at Girly Ladies. And I do have a personal Instagram. It's at the KJBFF. And Sanji, yours?
You can find me at Digital with Sanji, or you can find me on Facebook, TikTok, and the other social media platforms at Sanji Cosby. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most of all, keep growing. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care.